Vice Chair Teppan to facilitate this meeting. So, but to do that, I hope I'm getting my action straight. I need a motion to have Brian chair this meeting and a second. And once we get a voice vote, we can have Brian take over. Can I please get a motion to have Brian chair this meeting?
Do I have to say all that, or can I just say motion?
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So any, what do I say? Yeah, I guess the motion carries. Everyone's okay with that? I'm looking at Kathleen. Is that the right way? Yes, okay. I think we're all good. Brian can chair this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome all. Moving right into activities, we have item number 3. Oh, sorry, do I have any new folks today?
Good morning, all. I'd like to introduce you to Megan Gribble. Megan is our new manager of transportation planning, and she replaces, finally, Carl Jackson, who I think some of you may remember from about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We're very pleased to have Megan on board. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome to the committee. All right. So next up, approval agenda. Trust everyone has had time to review it. Do I have any requests for actions modifications to the agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve as written?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any nays? Motion passes. Public comment period. Do we have any received any comments?
No.
Do you have any comment cards? Just to,
No submitted public.
yeah, this is item number 6, comments and updates from our state and federal agencies and military liaisons. VDOT, you're up first.
Good morning, everyone. I do have a couple updates this morning. First, just wanted to mention that VDOT, we had our Hampton Roads District public hearing for the FY 2026 to 2031 6-year improvement program on the 24th. I appreciate everybody that was able to join us and want to thank Pavitra for coming out and speaking and representing the HRTPO. I do want to let you know that VDOT is continuing public hearings for the other 8 districts. And we should have the public hearings wrapped up here in the next week or so. And the final 6-year plan will be approved by the Commonwealth Transportation Board at their June meeting. So that will include the round 6 smart scale project selections as well. The CTB will be presented at their May meeting, those projects that are being recommended for approval. So they'll be presented those in May, and then the final approval with the rest of the 6-year plan will be in June. Also just wanted to remind folks for the revenue sharing and transportation alternatives programs, the SMART portal is currently open for both programs. And a reminder, it closes at 5 p.m. on May 30th, and that's for pre-applications. So you must submit a pre-application to be able to apply for a final application. So again, pre-applications close on the 30th of May, and then the full applications will open on August 15th through September 15th. So again, please make sure you meet those deadlines. Also, for a change, have some good news to report. The State of Good Repair local paving program, similar to last year, there are some extra money for Hampton Roads District for localities to apply for. So we will be opening up the SMART portal later this month for you to apply for additional paving projects. So, and we're going to try to get that turned around pretty quick. So it'll open up. You'll probably have a few weeks to submit your projects. It'll close, and then hopefully we'll be able to present those to the Commonwealth Transportation in the the July-August timeframe. So again, similar to last year, some extra money for you all to apply. So more information will come out on that. Just wanted to share the good news this morning. That's all I had. I want to see if Angela had anything.
Good morning. I just wanted to notify all the localities that there should be 2 emails coming out by the end of this week. The first one has to do with OEP's 2025 VTrans needs. They're currently working on that, and they're requesting any new UDAs or planned UDAs. So we'll be sending out email concerning that to localities, and we'll be looking to assist in any way we can with that process. And the next email that should be coming out is concerning a smart scale survey. This will be for the district level process. We'll be sending it out to both localities who participated and did not participate in the smart scale process. So please be looking out for those notices by the end of the week. Thank you.
Thank you both. we have anyone from rail and public transit? All right, military. All right, that's fast. FHWA. Trifecta. Port Authority. Moving to item number 7, approve of consent items. There's 3 items in consent agenda, the meetings from the April, minutes from the April meeting, and then a series of subparts for the tip amendment, from the exempt conformity amendments, and a series for non-exempt conformity amendments, the programmatic side. Does anyone have questions or curiosities for any of the items on the consent agenda? Ask the hearing none and entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve?
Second? I'm not seconding, I'm asking for it. All right, a motion to second. Any conversation on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next to item number 8, presentation on the UPWP Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal 26.
Good morning, everybody. I think most of you have seen this presentation every year. This is our annual work program, which stands for Unified Planning Work Program, another abbreviation, UPWP. Normally, we would come to you a little earlier in the process when we put out the draft for public comment. But one of the feedbacks we received from our federal partners was that they wanted the draft to include budget information. So coordinating with VDOT and DRPT and everyone, the numbers had to be finalized before we released it. So today I will be briefing on the UPWP, but I will have a request and action from TTAC to approve board approval at the May meeting. So in terms of what is a UPWP, most of it is the work that we do. It's what we do over the fiscal year that starts July 1, goes through June 30th the next year. It's work that TPO staff do, VDOT, and our transit partners. So if you go to the latter sections in the UPWP, you'll see the work that HRT, WATA, Suffolk, VDOT have included as part of their work program. And this is a requirement as part of being a recipient of Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration funds. This is something that we do every year. The other thing I also want to clarify is we ask for board action in May, and the UPWP goes into effect on July 1, but we do amend it as needed. So if we have a new tasks come in or budget numbers change, so typically we do that around October. This year it's a little different, and I'll touch upon that shortly. So what are things that are included? If you don't want to read the 100 and I don't know how many pages, 130-page document on a high level, what we always try to do is identify some planning priorities. And the reason we do that is these priorities weave through all our work programs. Many of you are going to be here today for the LRTP subcommittee. Scenario planning is something we've talked about. It's integrated into our long-range transportation plan, kind of weaving that into the work that we do. Resilience is another critical aspect for our region, especially with flooding and sea level rise, making sure that our work and our programs ensure a transportation system that's resilient. I think Dale always says is we don't know what's going to happen, but we can plan for it. Is kind of it. So we're planning for all possible scenarios. Multimodal transportation, as we invest in the system, making sure people are able to get to where they need to go, whether it's by car, by transit, by walking or biking, and making sure that safety is important. You've seen updates from Keith Nichols and his team on the regional safety study, making sure our system is safe for everyone that uses it. And then again, with emerging transportation technologies, I would like a flying car, but whether that's going to happen very soon, not sure. But how do we plan for autonomous vehicles? How do we plan for connected vehicle technology? And what does that mean when we plan 20 years in the future, looking ahead? So I think these are some of the narratives that weave through our work program document. But then as a recipient of federal funds, we also have very specific core activities. The long range transportation plan, currently it's 2045, but this will be updated to 2050. By next year, by this time, Dale, we should have that done. And so some of you, as I said, will be today at the Long Range Plan Subcommittee. The Transportation Improvement Program, that's 24 to 27, looking at what are the projects and programs we are funding over the next 3-4 years. I know John Mahaley and his team will be working on the next update to the tip shortly. Performance management on your agenda today, you'll see a couple of topics that relate to it, be it the congestion management process that Keith usually updates you, the state of transportation. Teresa is here to talk about the bridge study. So these are some of our recurring studies that we do or analysis to ensure that we, one, understand how our system performs, we monitor it, and we use that information in our work. And again, underlying all this is public participation, making sure everyone in the region, we are able to get to engage with them and get their information and their feedback into our process. I think that's a theme you'll see in the work document. A work program document is transportation for all, making sure the transportation system serves everyone, whether you're a walker, biker, whether you're in a certain community, that it works for everyone. And then the one thing that is different, if you look at our work program, normally I think it's task 13, if I'm not wrong, it's the rural planning program. This year there is a change. We've already talked to our rural localities. We've had calls with them. We've had calls with VDOT. But this year, VDOT staff will be directing and managing the rural transportation program. Previously, TPO staff had worked on it. Some of you might have been engaged with the rural long-range transportation plan. Again, Dale Stith and her team developed. But this year in FY26, this will be led by VDOT. And next year, we will be revisiting it to see how this might work. But this is something we're trying just based on some of the feedback and conversations with our federal, state, and local partners on this. The other thing that we always include is special studies, and they cross a wide variety of topics. For example, this fiscal year, Dr. Rob Case is working on passenger rail. Suffolk requested a site analysis for their train station. So that's something that we are working on. Every year we come to you in Jan asking for any special study request. The first one this year came from the city of Chesapeake. You'll hear from Teresa on the regional bridge study, but they wanted to understand the state of good repair program and what that has meant in terms of regional bridge conditions. And then the freight freight transportation advisory committee wanted an analysis of freight movement within the region. Keith promises me he knows how to get to do that, but I trust him, so we'll see how that plays out. So finally, in terms of budget, this is just information we put there in terms of we get funding from federal highway and federal transit, and this is how the funding is split between the various entities that work with us on this work program. So in terms of the approval process, as I said, normally we would come to you at the beginning, but because we had to put in budget information, we are later than we normally would be. So today we'd be requesting TTAC recommendation for board approval. And then May 15th at the TPO board meeting, we'd request the TPO board to take action. And come July 1, the UPWP goes into effect. The one thing that is going to be an immediate follow-up, as I said previously, October is when we normally would come to you for amendment requests. But this time we are waiting on FTA Section 5303 funding allocations for FY26. We don't have it, so we're working very closely with our DRPT partners. So that's something that we think it should be this month sometime. So come July, we'll be here again requesting amendment to incorporate the final Section 5303 numbers. So with that, any questions? But I think we need a slide to say we have board action, which I apologize, but we do request TTAC action on board approval.
Do you have any questions from the floor? Hearing none, will entertain a motion to approve the UPWP as presented.
Second.
I need a motion first.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have item number 9, Hampton Roads Congestion Management Process, Part 1. Mr. Nick.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Today I'll be presenting our update to the congestion management process, and today I'll be doing part 1 of that study. So For those of you that aren't familiar with the congestion management process, it's an ongoing process that we do here throughout each year here at the HRTPO. We monitor the regional roadway network. We identify congested locations and we try to determine what some of the causes of congestion might be at those locations, and then develop a list of strategies to mitigate congestion. The CMPs are required in all metropolitan areas with populations greater than 200,000 like we are. And we update this every 5 years, right around this time in the LRTP cycle. A lot of the data that you'll see today feeds right into Dale's project prioritization tool. So a lot of the congestion information I'll share with you, like I said, will help allocate points when we get to prioritization here over the next few weeks and months. So these are the sections that are included in this CMP 2025 report update. Part 1 includes the first 3 bullets you see on here, which are the introduction, the system monitoring section, and then system performance. So under the introduction, it's a lot of kind of the requirements. What is a CMP? Why do we do it? What are some of the elements that need to be included in a CMP? And then also we talk about goals and objectives. These are largely straight from what Dale's team and the LRTP has approved here over the last year, just sticking to those ones specific to congestion mitigation in the region. Under the system monitoring section, we talk about some of our system monitoring efforts here at the HRTPO, such as the State of Transportation Report, for example. We look over some of the regional roadway travel trends, and that's what I'll start showing you on the next slide. And then we also do a subset of projects where we look at the benefits in terms of travel time improvements of those projects. The third section, system performance, that's the meat of what I'll be presenting to you today, and largely details the roadway congestion analysis for our region. So starting with the regional roadway travel trends, we do this analysis based on approximately 80 continuous count stations we have located throughout the region. Most of these are maintained by VDOT, but there are some, for example, at the bridges and tunnels, some of the toll facilities in our region, and even some of the cities have continuous count stations that we get that data from. So if you take that information and look, going back to 2000, we are still below the pre-pandemic levels in terms of roadway travel here in our region. In 2023, we're still down about 4% from what we saw back in 2019. However, we are seeing increases now, about 2% if you look at the last year's data from 2022 to 2023. If you look historically, 2% is pretty much average in our region in terms of volume increases. So looks like more or less getting back to normal, I guess, when you look at increases in travel. But once again, we are still below what we were experiencing prior to the pandemic. Now, when you compare the amount of roadway travel in our region to some other metropolitan areas throughout the country, we are toward the middle to lower end in terms of the amount of travel per person. In Hampton Roads in 2023, it was just about 25 daily vehicle miles of travel per capita in our region. So that's 25th highest of 41 metropolitan areas. If you look all the way to the left at Nashville, they in fact have more than twice the amount of VMT per person in their region that we do. But once again, you can see we're kind of in the middle to slightly lower in terms of the amount of travel per person in our region. Now, as part of the CMP, we also want to look back at some of the projects that have been completed in recent years and what some of the benefits might be of those projects, particularly when it comes to reducing congestion and improving travel time. So as part of this section, we looked at 12 projects this year. Some of them are the largest ones you'll see in our region, the HRTF projects, such as the peninsula widening on 64, 264 interchange, and the high-rise bridge widening. But we also want to include some smaller projects. So if you look at the right, for example, we looked at improvements in the Gloucester Courthouse area at Main Street and Route 3 in that area. We also looked at like the Ocean View Avenue road diet to see what the impacts of travel times were on that corridor and certain signal installation and retiming projects. For the sake of time today, I'll just do 3 examples, and they're the 3 HRTF projects that I showed at the top, starting with the benefits of the 64 Peninsula project. Construction on that started in 2015 and I believe wrapped up sometime in 2021. So we compared pre-construction travel times from 2014 to the most recent data from 2023. No surprise, travel times did improve pretty significantly in this corridor. If you look during the PM peak periods, it was about a 4-minute improvement during both the eastbound and the westbound direction. So that's about a 17 to 18% decrease in travel times. However, if you look at just the subset of Saturdays in summer, when we really see those tourist volumes in that corridor, in the Busch Gardens area or the whole corridor coming from Richmond to Hampton Roads, we saw much larger improvements. So about 6 minutes eastbound that you save now that the widening is complete, a whopping 11 minutes in the westbound direction on summer Saturdays. So definitely great impacts that we saw on this project. We also looked at parallel corridors where it made sense. So for I-64, that includes Warwick Boulevard and Route 143 Jefferson Avenue. Did see improvements in those corridors, although much smaller, roughly 3 to 4% in Warwick Boulevard, and then slightly higher, kind of in the 7, 8, 10% range if you look at Route 143. 64-264 interchange. We also saw tremendous travel time savings in this area when you're traveling from Chesapeake on 64 westbound toward 264 east in Virginia Beach. About a 42% improvement if you look at the AM peak, even more, 61% improvement in travel times if you look at the PM peak. So definitely big time benefits when you look at that project. Last one I want to go over is the high-rise bridge. Now, since this was completed in March of 2024, we had to use a little bit of different data source for that. So we looked at the last 9 months of the year 2024 and compared that to the last 9 months of 2017, which was prior to construction starting in 2018. So once again, no surprise, big time travel time improvements we see in this corridor. About a 7-minute improvement if you're in the AM. If you're traveling towards Virginia Beach, and then if you're going in the opposite direction in the evening, about a 5-minute improvement, which is 29% traveling from Virginia Beach towards Suffolk in that corridor. Also looked at Military Highway. A little surprising, we did see pretty good improvement in the westbound direction, but almost nothing in the eastbound direction. So not entirely sure why that is, but we did see improvements, like I said, especially in the westbound direction during both peak periods. So most of what part 1 entails is the system performance section. You can see the different sections here. I'll go over each of these briefly today. In terms of what we analyzed in terms of the CMP roadway network, we included anything in our region that was classified as a minor arterial or above. So interstates, freeways, principal arterials, minor arterials. They are all included by default in the CMP roadway network. We also include select minor and major collectors. Those are largely based on either connectivity in the roadway network, maybe importance to the military, locality requests. If you request us to include these collectors in the network, we do that as well. When you sum it all up, we come to about 1,700 centerline miles and about 5,700 lane miles within our CMP roadway network. You can also see the breakdown. That includes some of the roads in the rural areas. So if you just look at the metropolitan planning area, it's about 1,500 miles and 5,100 lane miles. There was a slight expansion from the 2020 CMP for a few reasons. One is some new roadways have opened since our previous analysis, like Atkinson Boulevard and Newport News. So that by default, since it's a minor arterial, gets added to the network. We did get some locality requests when we had our kickoff presentation last year for additions to the network. So we included those. And then also any functional class changes. You may recall we went through a functional class change here over the last year. So anything that got bumped up to a minor arterial or above, if it wasn't already in the CMP, now by default it is. So that's how you see that increase. Briefly talking over some of the data sources we use. In terms of the volume data, we largely obtain it from VDOT. For those of you that don't know, they collect traffic volumes at least once every 3 years for a 2-day period on any roadway that's considered a minor collector or above. That's in the counties, that's in the cities, that's throughout the whole Commonwealth, not just on VDOT owned and maintained roadways. So it's a very robust data set. And so for this report, we use 2021 to 2023 volumes as our existing roadway volumes. Also, many of your localities collect volumes, so we use those if your city has a traffic count program. Anything we get from the bridges or tunnels or toll facilities. And then also if we have any special studies that do counts, we include that as well. Now, in terms of the travel time data that allows us to do the congestion analysis, this comes from INRIX. We have access to that through the state contract in the RIDIS platform. It's very robust. So you get traffic volume or traffic count data, traffic speed data for every 15-minute period by direction for the course of the entire year. For any roadway that they collect, which right now is about 82% of our CMP roadway network. So a vast majority of our network has this travel time data. So we take that data and we break it down and come up with a yearly average speed for the AM peak and PM peak each 15-minute period during that, and use that as part of the congestion analysis that I'm about to show you. So with this robust set of data, we can do a lot of different things. The one I'll go over mostly is the peak period congestion level analysis, but on top of that, we can do analysis, for example, of congestion duration. So is a roadway congested for 15 minutes or 4 hours? I mean, that can make a big difference when you're talking about prioritization. So we can do that with the INRIX data. Total delay, so if we combine this INRIX data with the volume data, we know what the total delay is experienced on that particular segment. Travel time reliability, we can look at the reliability of travel times since we have the whole course of a year's worth of data to look at. We also look at trucks in particular because a lot of the VDOT data is broken down by trucks or vehicle classification, so we can do that. And lastly, new this time is the intersection congestion analysis, and I'll do one slide at the end just briefly talking about that. So in terms of a methodology for congestion, with that 82% where we have INRIX data, we merely do what's called the travel time index. And all that is we take the average travel time during that 15-minute period over the course of the whole year, divided by whatever the free flow travel time is for that corridor as defined by INRIX. So if that ratio is more than 1.3 for a freeway or more than 1.4 for an arterial, we consider it severely congested on the maps you'll see on the next two slides. For that 18% of the network where we don't have INRIX data, we do it the old-fashioned way with the highway capacity manual. So roadway characteristic data, roadway volumes, area types, things like that, and then come up with a level of service A through F based on that. So these maps are included within the report. I just wanted to show you a couple examples. This is the PM peak period congestion level map for the peninsula. No big surprises, I wouldn't say. The bridges, tunnels all show up as congested. J. Clyde Morris, Route 17 corridor, and then around Jefferson, Oyster Point. Once again, nothing too surprising when we did our congestion analysis. On the south side, you look at the interstate system, a lot of it's congested. Keep in mind, this is from the year 2023, so the high-rise bridge still shows up as congested, even though it probably isn't if you look at the 2024 or 2025 data. Also, downtown tunnel, HRBT, monitor Merrimack, once again, no big surprises when you look at that. But once again, these maps are all available in the draft report. We can also look on a regional level. So what are our congestion levels when we take this analysis and look at it this way? So if you look at it at a lane mile basis, so what is if you look at the 30,000 foot level of the network, we currently have about 5% of our CMP roadway network as being severely congested during the morning peak period and about 9% during the PM peak period. But another way you can do it is by vehicle miles of travel. So this is really the perspective of the traveler as they drive around the region. What congestion levels are they seeing? So that's a little bit higher in terms of the AM peak period. It's about 10% of the CMP roadway network is severely congested. About 14% if you look in the PM peak period. One other thing we do with this data is we break it down in a little bit more detail in the high profile corridors, these 10 that we've looked at for years and years, and we can do a historical travel time analysis to see how travel times are changing at each of these corridors. So I'll go over a couple of them here just to show you examples. One is HRBT. No surprise, travel times are increasing between the work zone and additional volumes and things like that. So right now it's about 25 minutes to travel through the HRBT on average during the morning peak period if you're coming from the peninsula to the south side. A little bit more than that if you do it during the PM peak period. You can look at the westbound direction, and those are increasing quite a bit, especially during the morning, much higher than it was if you look 10 years ago. And then it's over 31 minutes on average if you look at the PM going from the south side to the peninsula. Something I found a little surprising here at the Monitor Merrimack with all the increase in travel times at the HRBT with the work zone, we really haven't seen much change at the Monitor Merrimack, which, like I said, wouldn't have thought that, but that's what the INRIX data is showing anyway. So about 22 minutes roughly if you're going from the peninsula to the south side right now in the afternoon, and then much lesser if you're going from south side to peninsula. Last example I want to show, just because we're seeing big growths there, and that's Chesapeake Expressway, particularly in the morning if you're going northbound. You just look over the last decade and you're seeing big increases in travel times from about an average of 8 minutes up to over 13 minutes now. Like I said, just over the last decade. So that's one of the corridors that we do keep looking at as we do that analysis. Last thing I wanted to talk about today is the intersection delay. Once again, this is the first time we've included this. This is something that INRIX publishes as part of their traffic signal report. So we just take it straight from their analysis and basically put it in table in map form. So we look at it with the control delay values and levels of service. I don't want to go into too much detail on this, but you can look at it as part of the report, see what all your signals, I believe they're all signalized intersections, and see what the average delays that NRIX has determined is going on at each of these locations. So I know that's a lot, but if you want more details, the draft version of the CMP Part 1 report was included with today's agenda. There's a link in your agenda that you can click to see the draft report. We're going to have it open for a longer period than usual. It'll be open for comments until June 16th. So please, if you can, look over the report and let us know if you have any thoughts or any comments that you want to share with us. We'll be back here in 2 months at July asking for a recommendation of approval for the document, and it'll go to the TPO board, hopefully at the July meeting. And then in terms of next steps, part 2, which is the congestion mitigation section, which will include everything else from the earlier slide, all the rest of those sections. So it's taking the data from this section and looking at what might be corridors to look at in particular, and what some strategies might be to mitigate congestion in those. One last thing I wanted to mention is we do plan on doing a survey as part of this as we get this data analysis done. So we're thinking in the summer to fall timeframe right now, gauging public feedback in terms of their thoughts on congestion, both kind of in the abstract sense, and then asking them where they might experience certain congested locations throughout the region, what some of their thoughts might be for some of the reasons of that. So we'll probably be in touch as we get closer to distributing that, so you can help us, one, with the questions we include, and then two, hopefully help us with your public information departments to distribute the survey once again as we get there. So that's everything I have. I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Keith, for the second part 2, I know you're going to get started in summer. Is there an expected timeline of when that will wrap up?
Historically, that one takes a little time, and then there's a caveat that we're also doing prioritization at the same time, which takes much more priority over the CMP Part 2, as you can expect. So my guess would be we would probably try to have that wrapped up in the next year and a half. But once again, prioritization kind of puts a little damper on that time frame.
More questions from the floor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is number 10, Hampton Roads Regional Bridge Study 2025 update. Ms. Brooks.
Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. So let's see here. Okay, so today, this morning, I'm going to present the 2025 update to the Hampton Roads Regional Bridge Study. Let's get things started here. Given the large presence of water in and around Hampton Roads, bridges play an integral role in the region's transportation system. While it's given that all infrastructure deteriorates over time, this is more of a concern for bridges given the higher costs associated to maintain them. Because of the importance of bridges to the region's transportation system, and also concerns regarding bridge condition and funding, HRTPO staff started to analyze bridges in the region in 2007. The original regional bridge study was released in 2008, with an update that followed the original study in 2012, and also another update in 2018. So the regional bridge study is one of the many recurring regional studies that we work on. The other reoccurring regional studies include the congestion management process, which you heard just moments ago from Keith on part 1, the regional safety study, regional freight study, the military transportation needs study, and also the sea level rise and storm surge impacts to roadways and Hampton Roads. So the 2025 update to the regional bridge study includes the following sections on the slide, but for today's presentation, I'm just highlighting a handful of those sections. So as of February 2024, there are 1,274 bridges in Hampton Roads. 62% of them are owned by VDOT, 35% are owned by localities, and 3% are federally or privately owned. Of this total, 59% span waterways, 37% span roadways, and 11% span railroads. The median age for the region's bridges is 43.5 years. 42% are at least 50 years old currently. Bridges in poor condition are structures with elements that need to be monitored and or repaired. Once referred to as structurally deficient bridges, bridges in poor condition typically require maintenance and eventually will need to be rehabilitated or replaced to address deficiencies. Despite these deficiencies, a bridge in poor condition is not necessarily unsafe. Bridge inspectors will close or place weight limits on bridges that they feel are unsafe. Additionally, bridges in poor condition are inspected more frequently and are monitored more closely than other bridges to ensure public safety. Based on federal regulations, a bridge is considered to be in poor condition if its deck condition, its superstructure condition, or its substructure condition has a general condition rating of 4 or less. This also applies to the condition of culverts. So as of February 2024, there were 33 bridges that were in poor condition in Hampton Roads, which is down from 75 bridges in 2015. The bridges in poor condition are identified on this map with red dots. Not sure if that's hard to see, but they're there. As part of the 2025 update to the regional bridge study, HRTPO staff analyzed bridge condition of bridges in Hampton Roads from the perspective of federal performance measures. So there are 2 bridge condition performance measures that states and MPOs must track and establish targets for, and they are percentage of bridges by deck area on the national highway system that are in good condition, and also the percentage of bridges by deck area on the national highway system that are in poor condition. The general condition rating from the National Bridge Inventory ranges from 9 to 0, with 9 being a component that's in excellent condition, and 0 being representing a failed condition or a closed bridge. The component with the lowest condition rating will determine the overall classification of that particular bridge. And again, this applies to culverts as well. A comparison of the number and area of bridges in Hampton Roads that are in good, fair, and poor condition was conducted for all bridges as part of this study. So there were 31.6% of all bridges in Hampton Roads that were in good condition, 65.8% that were in fair condition, and roughly 2.6% that were in poor condition. In regards to bridge deck area, 32.9% of the bridge deck area for all bridges in Hampton Roads were in good condition, 63.3% were in fair condition, and 3.8% were in poor condition. Again, this is as of February 2024. Looking only at the bridges that are on the national highway system, TPO staff analyzed those bridge facilities, Hampton Roads in comparison to Virginia and other large metropolitan areas with populations between 1 and 4 million people. In regards to the bridge deck area in good condition, for Hampton Roads, that percentage was pretty comparable to what was found in Virginia, so 32.3% to 31.4% respectively. However, that percentage of bridge deck area is slightly lower than what was found in the other large metropolitan areas, which was found at 38.7% in good condition. In regards to the bridge deck area for these NHS-only bridges, Hampton Roads had slightly higher percentage at 3.9% in poor condition, in comparison to Virginia at 3.1%, and then the other large metropolitan areas at 2.9%. This update summarizes how Hampton Roads ranked among the 41 comparable metropolitan areas with populations between 1 and 4 million people for the following bridge stats. So Hampton Roads ranked 29th highest in the total number of bridges out of 41. So, you know, we believe, we have a lot of bridges around here, but when you compare it to areas like St. Louis and Kansas City, they have nearly 4 times as many bridges than what we do here in Hampton Roads. We ranked 11th highest in terms of total bridge area. 23rd highest in terms of median bridge age, 33rd highest in terms of percentage of bridges in poor condition, 25th highest in terms of the percentage of bridge area in poor condition, 22nd highest in terms of percentage of bridges with posted weight limits, and 31st highest in terms of the NHS only bridges in poor condition, and then 15th, ranked 15th highest in terms of the percentage of NHS bridge area in poor condition. So as part of this update, HRTPO staff reviewed funding sources at the federal, state, and local levels that would be available to address bridge needs. So on this slide, I have some of the federal level programs that could help address the funding needed to cover bridge needs. The details on eligible bridge projects and available funding are provided in the draft report. Regarding state funding, in 2015, House Bill 1887 created the State of Good Repair program, which provides dedicated funding to fund the deficient bridges and pavements in Virginia. Per House Bill 1887, the state is required to allocate 45% of the construction funding for these deficient bridges and pavements. Structures are selected for SGR funding after undergoing a prioritization process. As part of this process, the SGR score is based off of the 5 factors that are listed on this slide. So I'll just briefly go over them. The importance factor measures the relative importance of each bridge in regards to the overall highway network. The condition factor measures the overall physical condition of the structure. Design redundancy factor measures 4 risks as they relate to redundancy, scour susceptibility, fatigue, and vulnerability to earthquakes. The structure capacity measures the structure's capacity to, in regards to I guess, what do I have here? To carry traffic, including public vehicles such as ambulances, fire trucks, and school buses. And the cost effectiveness factor measures the cost effectiveness of the work that is needed to address the deficiencies of the bridge. So there were 31 projects that were selected for SGR funding for fiscal year 2025 to 2030. Hampton Roads had 5 projects that were selected, totaling 53.3 million. Excuse me. Yeah, 53.3 million in project costs. Going back, the overall project cost of those 31 bridge projects that were selected, total just over 376 million. Should point out that the amount of the SGR funding, which varies by VDOT construction district, will be used to cover these bridge projects in full or partially if other funding sources have been identified. Between 2018 and 2024, there were 98 bridges that had some kind of bridge improvement conducted. This includes 42 existing bridges that were rehabilitated, 55 existing bridges that were replaced, and then one bridge that was built as a new construction. Examples of the completed projects, bridge projects, include Atkinson Boulevard over I-64 and CSX Railroad in Newport News, the Bridge Street over Salters Creek Bridge in Hampton, high-rise bridge in Chesapeake, and Scott's Factory Road over Champion Swamp in Isle of Wight. A total of 120 bridges and Hampton roads are programmed for rehabilitation, replacement, or construction in the fiscal year 2025 to 2030 six-year improvement program, the fiscal year 2024 to 2027 transportation improvement program, or a city capital improvement plan. Projects included on this list are the Deep Creek Bridge and Triple Decker Bridge projects in Chesapeake, the Denby Boulevard over I-64 and CSX Railroad, as it's related to the new interchange project that's in Newport News, and then I-64 Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. I should mention that we did reach out to the TTAC members last week and gave them a heads up that, as part of the study, we would be including detailed information about current and upcoming bridge projects, and provided them that table of projects just to review and provide any feedback that they can provide. So feedback for that, and then for the overall bridge study, we greatly appreciated until June 16th. So as part of the bridge project section, we analyzed the current project funding for bridges in poor condition in Hampton roads. As of February 2024, again, there were 33 bridges that were in poor condition. 20 of those bridges have improvements that are funded and included in the six-year improvement program, the TIP, or a locality CIP. Most of those bridges have been funded for replacement, so that's 24 bridges, or 72.7%. Another 4 bridges have been funded for rehabilitation, so that's 12.1%. And I should mention, how data, changes all the time. So there were 2 bridges that had been replaced since February 2024, and so they're no longer considered to be in poor condition. And then the remaining 3 bridges, we weren't able to find any funding in the six-year improvement program or TIP or a locality CIP for them. So we're also able to analyze the cost of maintaining bridges as part of this study. I should point out that half of the region's bridges that currently exist will be at least 70 years old by 2050. Statewide, slightly higher percentage there, 64.6% of Virginia's bridges currently exist will be at least 70 years old by 2050. Now, under a worst case scenario where bridges are replaced rather than rehabilitated in a timely manner due to funding limitations, HRTPO staff calculated that $11 billion would be needed to fund the maintenance of bridges and Hampton roads through 2050. Again, this is a worst case scenario where bridges are replaced rather than rehabilitated over in a timely manner. So the draft version of the Hampton Roads Regional Bridge Study, the 2025 update to that, will be available when completed. So we are currently wrapping up the draft, incorporating final revisions, but we will send out an email to the TTAC members when it is available for public review at the link on this slide. The draft report, as I mentioned, will be open for public review until June 16th. And we'll be going to TTAC and the TPO board for final approval at their July meetings. And I believe that's all I have for you all folks, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Teresa, I may have missed this, but your slide 8 where you showed all the deficient bridges, what was the date on that snapshot?
Slide 8. Everything should be as of February 2024. Oop, go back. Slide 8.
Okay, because I see some errors in that in my city, so I'm just curious. We'll get back with you.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had just one comment on slide 15, talked about state of good repair for deficient bridges or poor bridges. I did want to mention, I think you all are aware, but last General Assembly, the 2024 session, they did approve allowing state of good repair money to be used for those bridges that are not structurally deficient or poor. So those that are cusp, we call cusp bridges. So those bridges that are in fair condition. So
Yes, sir.
that has added some additional money to help us repair
Yeah.
bridges before they.
Right.
That
Being
point.
more proactive, absolutely.
More questions from the floor? Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Here's just to item 11, for the multimodal connectivity toolbox update. Mr. Harrington.
All right, so I'm going to give an update on the multimodal toolbox. For this version of the toolbox, we focused on transit. So the purpose of the toolbox is to create tools that can be utilized by localities and agencies for a variety of connectivity solutions. And for this, we developed a tool to assist in determining the highest priority locations for transit and bus stops infrastructure. And we did this based upon the population served as well as the proximity to essential services. So kind of what we did, we gathered GIS data from the 3 transit agencies. And then we looked at within a half-mile radius of each of the existing stops, the population that fell within that half-mile buffer. Then we developed our list of essential services through public surveys, and we mapped those services and created some examples that I'll show today that show how this tool can be used. And we have presented some of these results to RTAP as well as the Regional Transit Coordination Working Group, or the RTCWG. And all of this data and maps and things are supposed to augment or help transit agencies and localities in determining the highest priority locations for future stops. So this was our first step. We mapped every bus stop in the region for HRT, WADA, and Suffolk Transit for a grand total of 3,196 stops. Then we gathered the population data. We put half-mile buffers over every stop that's existing in the region, overlaid this with census block group data, and gathered the population that fell within that half-mile radius. Next, we developed the list of essential services. We did a couple of public outreach surveys. The first one, we didn't get as many responses as we had liked. And that's the first question we asked there on that survey. It was kind of open-ended, and like I said, we didn't get very many responses, so we narrowed it down, included a couple of open-ended questions for people, and kind of made it more precise. We got some more responses there and developed this list of essential services that we looked at. And again, we were looking at the proximity of stops to these essential services. And then we took this list and mapped them all. So we have grocery stores, libraries, urgent cares, hospitals, and so on. Then as far as the distances from the services to the bus stops, example one here, we looked at hospitals. And every hospital in the region had a stop within a half a mile. So that's access to the hospitals through transit was pretty well covered there. The next step, oh, there's the zoomed in little map down there. Our next step, we looked at airports. This was the opposite. All public airports, the large ones and the small ones within the region, there was not a bus stop within 1 mile. So if you're looking to improve access here, that'd be a good place to start. There's a zoomed in map there. And again, we looked at large airports and small airports all over. Example 3, libraries. We looked at this specific library, the Russell Memorial Library. It kind of falls between Suffolk Transit and HRT's service areas there. But the closest stop to this library is about 1 mile away. So we looked at this and thought, there could be a couple of solutions to solving or to improving access to this library. HRT could address this, Suffolk Transit could address this, but we thought this is a good example of how you can look at an essential service and the distance to bus stops. Our next example, we looked at the Tidewater Community College Center for Workforce Solutions. And this one, Suffolk Transit, I believe it's the purple line, has a stop right there, again, about 1 mile away. But if you're looking, to improve access to schools or to places of higher education, extending, route extensions, things like that, extending it down to the school would provide greater access for transit riders. This is the last one out in HRT when they cross the James River Bridge there into Smithfield. One of those is an express route, but there are 2 routes that go through there. That yellow dot there is an urgent care. And if, again, looking to improve access to urgent cares, providing a stop there or within a half mile of that location could do this. And again, those 2 stops that are out there combined serve within that half mile radius of those stops, it serves about 955 people. So ongoing and next steps, this tool is supposed to be, like I said, it's supposed to assist with localities and agencies in determining future stop placement. And this will go along with, ridership data and things of that nature that the agencies maintain. And the next, we are going to be putting this on our HR Geo site, all the maps with the associated data. Any questions?
Now, just a comment. Thanks, Matthew. There's a lot of opportunity here to take a look at transit in your areas. And just to reiterate that, we communicated with the transit agencies over several meetings and did receive input as far as shape files and other input throughout this process. And we're going to probably tweak the maps a bit before we post those on our website. And make sure all the shape files are ready to download if you'd like to use them. It's an ongoing process, and as we move forward, we do plan on updating the shape files if any of the stops do change.
We appreciate the work, and we're looking at transit options in the county, so this kind of stuff is really helpful to us. But one of the things is if there's any way we could start including Riverside Hospital as a point on some of the mapping. I realize it's not open yet, but it's fully under construction and anticipated to open in January of 2026. Correct. I'm trying to remember what year it is now, so. And it is a fully authorized hospital facility, as
Okay.
well as the urgent care that we have just up the road from there. So, thank you.
Questions, comments from the floor? Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Is this to item number 12, 3-month schedule? Committee is scheduled to meet in June and July. And often we take August off, and we'll have action towards that as we get closer to August. If you look in your agenda package, there's some various information in item 13. Some exciting reading. I'll let you do that on your own. Headed into item number 14, announcements. Dale?
LRTP Subcommittee meeting will be in this room. We'll probably wait about 15, 20 minutes since TTAC is finishing early. And we do have lunch for the LRTP Subcommittee members.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in a previous meeting, I did mention that if you do plan on submitting the application for the TA set aside or the TAP funding program, that we needed requests for letters of support. I had the date set for July 1st. This is just a reminder. To date, I've received one. So that project would probably get all the money at this point. So anyway, yeah, please make sure you get those to me so we can get that ready for the TTAC and the HRTPO board in July. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other announcements from the group? I don't have any old or new business for the group. Last call. All right, here, done, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you all.